These are the foundation for kindly inviting me. So I'll start with Jaya Radha Madhava and then I'll go into the verses. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jai Shri Radha Madhava Sakhi ki Jai Shri Shri Gavanitaya ki Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we will be reading from Shrimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, and text numbers 31 through 38. So I want to know how many of you are kind of following this whole round of studying the Bhagavad Gita. I know many of you must have already studied, but in this round, how many of you have been following from the first chapter? You can raise your hands in Zoom. Okay. I see only one devotee. Radhe Govinda, Ritu Saxena. Okay, 2 of you. All right. Harilila Prabhu, of course, is a master teacher. Okay, at least there are some of you. and others may have previously read it, read Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita is beautiful. Every time we read, there's so much we get out of it. Bhagavad Gita is nectar. It has emanated directly from the lips of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from the lips of Sri Krishna. So Bhagavad Gita, we can study every single day. Actually, we should study at least a couple of verses, at least one verse every single day. It's better to take a bath in the Bhagavad Gita every day. So this second chapter is a response to what Arjuna has spoken. It is a response to how Arjuna has reacted after seeing the assembled armies on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. He has some verbal reaction. He has some unexpressed reaction that manifested in his body. And the final reaction was just he collapsed. He put aside his bow and arrow. But Arjuna is very fortunate. He had the association of the Supreme Lord, a great teacher, to be able to answer Arjuna's questions. Unfortunately, that's not our situation, where we have directly God answering our questions. But however, we have the devotees of the Supreme Lord, and we have his instructions in the form of Bhagavad Gita. So I will recite maybe the first verse and start the conversation, and as we go through, we will read the other verses. So text number 31, Swadharmamapi chavekshya navikampitum dharmyadhiyudhya treyonyat kshatriyasya navidyate. Considering your specific duty as a kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles. And so there is no need for hesitation. So I will read the purport also. Maybe it's a long purport. I'll read one paragraph. Out of the 4 orders of social administration, the second order for the matter of good administration is called kshatriya. Kshat means hurt. One who gives protection from harm is called kshatriya. Trayate, to give protection. The kshatriyas are trained for killing in the forest. A kshatriya would go into the forest and challenge a tiger face to face and fight with the tiger with his sword. When the tiger was killed, it would be offered the royal order of cremation. This system has been followed even up to the present day by the Kshatriya kings of Jaipur state. The Kshatriyas are specially trained for challenging and killing because religious violence is sometimes a necessary factor. Therefore, Kshatriyas are never meant for accepting directly the order of sannyasa or renunciation. Non-violence in politics may be a diplomacy, but it is never a factor or principle. In the religious law books, it is stated, Avaheshu mitonyonyam jighan santo mahikshitaha yuddhamana param shaktya swargam yantya paranmukhaha yagneshu pashavo brahman hanyante satatam dvijaihi samskrita kila mantraischa tepi swargam avapnuvan. In the battlefield, a king or kshatriya, while fighting another king envious of him, is eligible for achieving the heavenly planets after death, as the Brahmanas also attain the heavenly planets by sacrificing animals in the sacrificial fire. Therefore, killing on the battlefield on religious principles and killing animals in the sacrificial fire are not at all considered to be acts of violence, because everyone is benefited by the religious principles involved. The animal sacrificed gets a human life immediately without undergoing the gradual evolutionary process from one form to another And the Kshatriyas killed on the battlefield also attain the heavenly planets, as do the Brahmanas who attain them by offering sacrifice. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yatkripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Ishwaram. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, as I mentioned, this particular chapter is a response to Arjuna's situation in chapter 1, and also he has asked questions to Krishna on what to do, and Krishna is responding. And you can see this particular section has a parallel to what Arjuna has spoken in chapter number 1, around the same verse numbers that we are doing in chapter 2. Okay? So in chapter 2, here you see Swadharmam api chaveksha navikampitum arhasi dharmyad hi yuddhat shreyonyat kshatriyasya na vidyate. So you see here the word shreya, what is actually beneficial. And if you go to chapter 1, text number 31, what is Arjuna saying here? Nacha shreyonu pashyami hatva swajanam ahave nakankshe vijayam krishna nacha rajyam sukhanicha nacha shreyo anupashyami. Hey Krishna, I don't see any good at all in this act of fighting. No good. And here Krishna is saying, actually, dharmyad hi yuddhat shreyah anyat kshatriyasya na vidyate. And there Arjuna said, anupashyami. What does pashyami mean? Not if you know some Sanskrit words, what is the meaning of pashya?
To see.
To see. Arjuna is saying, I don't see any good that's going to come out by fighting. And Krishna is also using the word nacha avekshya. Nacha avekshya. Swadharmam api chavekshya. So now this iksha also means to see. Okay. So there Arjuna is seeing no good at all. But Krishna is saying, no, Arjuna, if you see from the aspect of dharma, there is no better thing than fighting. So this is exactly opposite to what Arjuna has mentioned in chapter 1. So Krishna crushes Arjuna's argument. Word by word, he crushes them to pieces. Where he says there is no Shreyas, he says actually there is no other better way than this. There he says, I don't see. Nanu pashyami, I don't see anything. And Arjuna, anupashyami, he has, meaning he's not just giving his opinion. He has, when you put anu in front of, you're not just seeing, but you're trying to see by what you have acquired from other sources. This is how Arjuna understood dharma. And Krishna is saying, no, if you see carefully, this is the best way. And in these sequence of verses, Arjuna expresses in detail that how Krishna should understand that this is not the right thing to do. And he should somehow help Arjuna in a very favorable way, because his name is Govinda. He's supposed to give pleasure, and therefore he should, help Arjuna in such a way that Arjuna is happy. He says he will not fight at all, even for the exchange of 3 worlds. And he also says that we will get sin. Sin will overcome us if we slay such aggressors. Papameva ashrayedasman. And so some of the words is, Pashya, Krishna also used Iksha, which is similar. And Arjuna has used Shreya and Papa also. Now Shreya and Papa, Shreya is not one of our relatives or cousin or somebody whose name is Shreya, and Papa is not our father. As we say, Pitaji, Papa. But Papa is sin here, and Shreya is good and welfare, well-being. So now these Krishna's response also will center around these things. Shreya, Papa, and also Sukha. Arjuna said, there is no Sukha, there is no happiness at all in this activity. Okay? We'll get Papam, and there is no Sukham at all by doing this. So from 31 through 36, Arjuna expresses these things. And Krishna is the Supreme Lord. Sometimes if somebody asks us a question, we can answer one question, but if they ask you 3 to 4 different things, now to remember them and sequentially answer them is not an easy thing. But you see, Krishna, he goes one by one Arjuna's arguments. From first chapter, he starts defeating in the second chapter. Arjuna has expressed compassion for the bodies who will be killing these things. And Krishna spent a lot of verses. The previous section to this was all about what? That we are not this body, we are spirit soul. So through that, Krishna has defeated the argument that, you will not be actually killing anybody. The compassion you are expressing is for the body. The soul is different from the body. So he has separated soul from the body. So now he's coming back and talking about what should we do in this world. All of us, we have certain responsibilities as a mother, as a father, as a student, as an employee at work, right? We have all these duties. And we need to know what are the responsibilities that we have that come along with our duty. So whenever here Srila Prabhupada translates dharma as religious principle, meaning our occupation itself will also be religious principles. That's what the Varnashrama Dharma is about, is the 4 Varnas. Properly acting in each Varna is also a religious principle. That is also a Dharma. So now Krishna is saying, you are a Kshatriya. For a Kshatriya, his duty is to wait for the opportunity to fight. That's what the entire, that's their path to advancement, is to wait for the opportunity for a good fight. That's what a Kshatriya is looking for. And Krishna explains that, Kshatriya is somebody, like Prabhupada is explaining, Kshatriya is somebody who will protect from harm. That's the entire meaning of the word Kshatriya. And here, the entire population of the world, they are in trouble. They are being governed by people who have demoniac nature. Duryodhana, he may have skills, but his nature is bad. And when people are under the rule of such a king, there will not be spiritual advancement. So therefore, it's Arjuna's responsibility to fight based on the religious principles, not only for the sake of the people, but for all the things that Duryodhana and party have committed. So in that process, even if there is killing, and like Prabhupada explains here based on the religious books, that there is no sin. These are meant for actually elevation to higher states of consciousness and to higher stages of existence. So here, there is another word that's used is swadharma, swadharmam chapi chaveksha. And Srila Prabhupada explains that swadharma, when we have this material body, we have particular nature, 3 modes of material nature. Some of you may know, goodness, passion, ignorance. So based on that nature, we have a particular responsibility in this world. So that is the swadharma in this material world. But there is another dharma, which is the dharma of all living entities, is simply to be a servant of the Lord, Jivera Swarupoy Krishnera Nityadasa, and to engage in the devotional service of the Lord. And until we are liberated, we have these 2 different tracks going on. So we engage in devotional service. We also act in this material world for our livelihood using these swadharmas and sacrificing the results of that work for the service of the Lord. So these 2 things will go in parallel. And Krishna says, happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors for the heavenly planets. Can anyone think of some example where people are really happy when they get fighting opportunities?
Probably army of a country.
Yes, army of the country. And sometimes when these fightings were happening, like even when United States withdrew from Afghanistan, some people went. There was one, probably that guy was a senator or somebody, he worked in the army previously. Without telling anybody, he went to Afghanistan. He went to Afghanistan to directly see, and he actually probably rescued some of the people also.
Right.
Because that's the Kshatriya nature. Kshatriya means you want to protect. Like if there are a lot of people on the road and say there's some problem, maybe some animal will come and attacking people. Naturally, those who have Kshatriya nature, they'll jump up and they'll protect people. Naturally. And also, even you can observe this amongst children also. I have a friend in Seattle, devotee, and his younger daughter, I don't know, probably she was in first grade or second grade, and her friend, another girl, one boy was bullying that girl. So then the girl who was being bullied, he told the teacher, and probably nothing happened. And then this girl, this devotee's daughter, she's watching what's happening. And then that guy was bullying again. Another boy was bullying, and he saw her friend crying. And then she took her friend and went to that guy and said, another boy said, let's go and play. Let's go play in the basketball court. So they all went to the basketball court. And then she took him to such a spot where no cameras can record anything. And she punched this guy in the face. And then his nose was literally bleeding. And he ran, and the teacher, and then the next day parents, the teacher called the parents and of this girl who did, and my friend had to go. And the teacher asked, what happened? And then the girl was with the father, and she's saying, why did you do this? She said, as administrators, it is your responsibility to protect us children. And when my friend was being bullied, you did not take any action. Therefore, I took things under my control and I taught him a lesson. This is a second grade girl. And everybody was laughing. When we complained, you did not take any action. That is not the right thing to do. And I had to protect my friend. And this is the second grade girl. And she's like a kshatriya, right? I want to protect people. And you see, people have this nature, sometimes even some children, that they cannot withstand something wrong. They have to speak up. So for such people, they enjoy when there is an opportunity to protect right from wrong, right? So it's a natural thing for kshatriyas, actually. If it is not natural for somebody, that means they're not actually kshatriyas. Probably they're just working for some salary, but they don't have true kshatriya nature. True kshatriyas, no matter what, like Indian independence movement, Subhash Chandra Bose, Bhagat Singh, right? They would secretly gather people. They'll fight against the British. And they would be happy for these fighting opportunities. And this is the nature of the kshatriyas. And then Krishna goes on to explain, Atachetvam imam dharmyam sangramam na karishyasi tatasva dharmam kirtim cha hitva papam avapsyasi. If, however, you do not perform your religious duty of fighting, then you'll certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. So now, we have seen how in chapter 1, Arjuna said, Papame vashraye dasman. Even though these guys are atatayinas, these are miscreants, rogues, aggressors. And Arjuna is thinking, even by killing them, we'll get sin. But here Krishna is turning it upside down. Papam avapsyasi. If you don't fight, then you'll get sin. Not only fighting is the highest welfare activity for you, it's the best thing you could do. But if you do not fight, then what happens? Papameva avapsyasi. Papam avapsyasi. You will definitely get sin for not fighting. And this is true. That's why this is very, very intricate. Dharma is not so easy. Bhishma Dev, when Draupadi was being disrobed, I heard in one movie, he's literally holding the sword and crushing it, and then he's bleeding because he couldn't do anything. He knows that it's not the right thing. But because of other reasons, he had to withhold. But it is actually sinful. It is sinful to watch a dharma, particularly for a kshatriya. A kshatriya cannot just watch something wrong happening and do nothing. With every duty comes responsibilities. If you are a doctor and you see somebody bleeding, is the doctor legally bound to do something? Any doctors here? Doctors and nurses. I heard actually they are supposed to do at least first aid. They have to help do some first aid or something, with the knowledge that they have. So this is very important to do the service. And I believe even legally, if we are driving on the road and if we see somebody in an accident or somebody is dying or something, we are supposed to call the cops. We cannot just ignore and go. So there are so many rules and regulations that if properly not followed, we will be bound. So similarly here, if Arjuna doesn't fight, he will incur sin. He'll get papam. So Krishna very clearly is giving all these details. And not only that, Arjuna will lose the reputation of a fighter. Now, Arjuna's reputation is not very little like our reputation. Sometimes we are attached to our own reputation also. Even if little children, if you scold them in public, they'll say, why did you scold me in front of everybody? That's so mean. Huh? I lost all my reputation in front of my friends. Right? And Arjuna, he's so powerful that he even fought alongside with the demigods to fight against the demons. He was so powerful, Arjuna. And he had celestial weapons. He pleased Indra. He pleased Lord Shiva. He got the chariot from Agni. So he pleased so many devatas, and he's so powerful that his reputation is so great. And if a person of so much reputation, then if people say, oh, this person is not fighting, is not doing his duty, that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. If somebody says that you're not doing your job properly, you're not doing your service properly, we feel bad. And here Arjuna completely, if he doesn't fight, people will say a lot of things. And it will not be good. What is the consequence of that? Akirtim chapi bhutani katayishyanti te vyayam sambhavitasya chakirtir maranadati richyate. People will always speak of your infamy, and for a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death. Now, this is a pretty heavy statement, and it's true. For a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death. Arjuna, in the 10th canto, in the Krishna book, we read the story of Arjuna promising a Brahmana. A Brahmana, every time he has a baby, the baby dies. And one time Arjuna happens to be in Dwaraka. And every time the baby dies, this Brahmana will come to the court of King Ugrasena, and it tells them, you are not the right kings at all. You are envious of Brahmanas. If you are a virtuous king, why will my son die when I am alive? In those days, children would never die in front of the elders. So the Brahmana would say all kind of things. And everybody was sitting quiet. And Arjuna could not tolerate this. And this happened many times. And it so happened Arjuna was there, I believe, for 8th or 9th time. And Arjuna said, hey, Brahmana, what are you talking? I am here to save. And then the Brahmana laughs, really? Pradyumna could not do anything. Aniruddha could not do anything. And Krishna, Balaram, they cannot do it. They're just sitting quietly. You think you can do something? Then Arjuna said, don't think I am one of these Yadavas. I am Arjuna. I am the holder of Gandiva weapon. I can certainly protect your child. And if I cannot protect your child, I'll kill myself. So this is the spirit of Kshatriyas. If they cannot follow the dharma, if they cannot give protection, they are ready to die, commit suicide. And Krishna knows that about Arjuna. And of course, later Arjuna could not save, and he was about to die. He puts up a fire and he wants to die in the fire. And then Krishna pats on his back and said, what happened, my dear friend? You spoke big words. Huh? Anyway, don't worry, don't commit suicide. Then I will lose my reputation that my friend had to commit suicide like this. Huh? So let me help you. And then he takes Arjuna to Mahavishnu and brings back all the children. But the point is, dishonor is worse than death. And Arjuna could not see that dishonor and he wanted to commit suicide. So therefore here Krishna is saying, for a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death. And we also see, even through this day, sometimes when something dishonorable happens to people, they commit suicide. We all must have heard about these things. When something happens that which is shameful and which is hard to tolerate, people commit suicide. Because a person of a Kshatriya nature, dishonor, they cannot tolerate. Even Dhruva, he could not tolerate the dishonor. Narada Muni told him, Dhruva, you're a little boy, just go home. And Dhruva says, Narada Muni, I cannot do that. Narada Muni says, you are a child. He says, but no, I want a bigger kingdom than my father. And Narada Muni says, okay, but even if you cannot forget, you want all these things, just get them when you grow up. He says, no, I want it now. But Dhruva, I'll also tell you one thing, forgiveness is a great principle. Why don't you just forgive your father, your stepmother? And then Dhruva says, Narada Muni, I'm a Kshatriya. How can I forget? I'm a Kshatriya. I want to rightfully get something. You please show me a rightful way to get this kingdom bigger than my father and even my grandfather. Give me some righteous path and I'll be determined to get it. So this is Kshatriya spirit. And looking at Arjuna, if he doesn't even fight, no determination, then Krishna is saying this will be worse than death, don't do that. And not only that, what will people think? Bhayadranad uparatam mamsyante tvam maharataha yesham chatvam bahumato bhutva yasyasi laghavam. The great generals who have highly esteemed your name and fame will think that you have left the battlefield out of fear only, and thus they will consider you insignificant. Krishna is telling Arjuna, don't think that, oh, you're so compassionate, you're so kind person, and that's why you did not want to fight. Nobody will think like that. They will think you are scared of Karna. They will think you are scared of Duryodhana. They will think you are scared of Bhishma, Drona and all these people and you ran away. That's what they will think. And then they'll consider you to be insignificant. And this is not good for you. You lose your fame. You will acquire sin. And then avachya vadanshcha bahun vadishyanti tavahitaha nindantas-tava samathyam tato dukkhataram nukim. Your enemies will describe you in many unkind words and scorn your ability. What could be more painful for you? And this will be very difficult. Very, very painful. And how can you tolerate? It's not, you cannot. A Kshatriya by nature cannot. A Vaishya may tolerate for business reasons, a Brahmana may tolerate as a habit, but a Kshatriya, no. And Prabhupada says even sometimes in Kshatriya weddings also fightings will happen. Literally fighting with swords. In Kshatriya weddings, to show their chivalrous nature, that they'll not back off, they'll fight. And then if you are running away, it will be so painful for you, Arjuna. Don't do this. So therefore, he says, Hato va prapsyasi swargam jitva va bhokshase mahim tasmaduttishta kaunteya yuddhaya krita nishtayaha. O son of Kunti, either you will be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planets, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore, get up with determination and fight. So now Krishna gives the conclusion of this particular section, where he says you either fight and win the battle and enjoy the kingdom, or you just die on the battlefield. A Kshatriya will never run away. If you see the qualities of a Kshatriya, Yuddhe chapya palayanam. A Kshatriya, in the fight, in the battlefield, there is no palayanam, there is no running away. There's only one-way street. Srila Prabhupada gives the example of, I believe this was one king in Jaipur or something, and he went to fight, and I forgot his name. Let's just make up a name. So let's say Ranveer Singh or something. And so he goes to fight, and then the palace gates are closed, and then the king comes back, and the queen instructs them, don't open the gates until they win the battle and come. So then the soldiers again come and say, Ranveer Singh is here. Says, don't open the door. Ranveer Singh, the person who has come must not be Ranveer Singh. Ranveer Singh either will die in the battle or win the battle and come back. Right? The Kshatriya ladies also, they cannot tolerate this insult that my husband has run away from battlefield. They would rather, in their dynasty, have somebody who has died for the right cause rather than who ran away. Because then people will talk about it. Hey, this guy ran away, and it will be so much insult. Sometimes that insult may go on for decades. The children may be taunted that your father ran away from the battlefield, right? So therefore, for Kshatriyas, there's only one way. You win the battle, you get the kingdom, or you go back to Godhead, right? Of course, unless they trap you and bind you and all those things. So now, again in the previous chapter also, Arjuna says that we will go to hell, narake niyatam vaso, for doing all these things. But here Krishna says you will go to Swarga. We have seen one verse at least in 43, Naraka was there, 41, 43. So for becoming cause of all this battle and death of everybody, there will be women without protection. For all these reasons, we'll go to hell. But here Krishna is saying, no, you'll go to Swarga. You will not go to hell, you'll go to Swarga. And he said that there is no Sukham. But here Krishna is saying, you will enjoy, Bhokshase. You will enjoy this kingdom. Arjuna said, there is no Sukham by doing this. But Krishna is saying, no, you have enjoyment by doing this. Arjuna said, we'll go to hell. Krishna is saying, you'll go to heaven. Arjuna said, we'll have papam. Krishna said, if you don't fight, you will have papam. Arjuna said, it is not good, no Shreya. Krishna said, this is the best thing to do. So in this way, Krishna has defeated all the arguments of Arjuna. And then he says something very different in text number 38. And this is actually devotional service, meaning this is the mode that which we need to take. Okay, so this is more about profit and loss. Which way is good? If you do this, you get this, you do this. Ultimately, okay, you get Swarga. What is Swarga? Swarga is heavenly planets. What is it meant for you? Enjoy. But is that the goal? Right? This all, whatever I explained, it sounds good to be in this material world to gain something. But Krishna, he says something grave in the next verse. Sukha dukkhe same kritva labha labhau jaya jayau tato yuddhaya yujyasva naivam papam avapsyasi. Do thou fight for the sake of fighting, without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, and by so doing, you shall never incur sin. So now, do the fight for the sake of fighting. Yuddhaya yujyasva. You fight for the sake of fighting. And don't consider three things. Sukha dukkha, labha, alabha, jaya, ajaya.
So
Victory,
it means here, Prabhuji, niskam karma, right?
yes. Yes. So here he said you fight just for the sake of fighting, which actually means fight for the sake of liberation. Meaning the goal of your life should not be material enjoyment. The goal of the life should be, Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan explains, this is to get Atma Jnana for the sake of self-realization. Our endeavors in this world must be for the sake of self-realization. And when we are purely acting just for the sake of self-realization, we want to do whatever is good for self-realization. And whatever Krishna says, that is good for self-realization. So when we act just for the pleasure of Krishna, then there is no question of sin at all. And Prabhupada cites a verse here from Shrimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, Devarshi bhutaptanam pitrunam naking karonayam ranicha rajan sarvatmanaya sharanam sharanyam gato mukundam parihritya kartam. Anyone who has completely surrendered unto Krishna Mukunda, giving up all other duties, is no longer a debtor, nor he is obliged to anyone, not the demigods, nor the sages, nor the people in general, nor kinsmen, nor humanity, nor forefathers. So if this is the mood, then there is no question of sin involved. But if the fighting is meant to enjoy the material desires, I gave you all the example of this Kshatriya fighting Ranveer Singh. Okay, if they are fighting to get the kingdom so that they get to be the kings and enjoy. Yes, they may get the kingdom, they may enjoy, but that will not free them from the cycle of birth and death. And unknowingly, they will commit sinful activities. And that is the reason why Kshatriyas, towards the end of their life, must undergo the process of atonement. All the Kshatriyas, they may be doing this, but unknowingly, when you are angry, when you are in the battlefield, you will violate the rules. You will kill in an wrong way. There's so much intricacies. Therefore, there will be some papam unknowingly. So it doesn't relieve us just by fighting to get the kingdom and enjoying and ruling. It doesn't liberate us. And also it doesn't protect us from unknowingly also are committing sinful activities. Therefore, Arjuna, Acharyas explained through this process when Krishna is describing all those, Arjuna is looking at Krishna and having counter emotions. That Krishna, okay, I understand all these, but then there's also a problem by killing gurus, by killing teachers. Then Krishna says, yes, if your intention is to enjoy, and in that mood you fight, yes, you'll get sinful reactions. Baldev Vidyabhushan clearly says this. That Arjuna may fight, but if he fights with an intention of killing all these people so that I get the kingdom and enjoy, then he will get sin. Therefore, Krishna is saying, okay, Arjuna, the main thing is your desire. Your desire should not be for your own gratification, but for a higher purpose. In that case, there is no sin involved. So similarly, our activities that we do, we may be very intelligent, we may have profitable job, business, and all these things. But if our motivation is, I am the enjoyer of them, then what happens? We become the cause of the action. And then we become karma phala hetu. And therefore, we have to experience the phala. We have to experience the reaction of the work. So therefore, this nishkama karma, not just nishkama karma, but even if there is nishkama karma, the soul will not have pleasure. Naishkarmyamapyachyuta bhava varjitam nashobhate jnanamalam niranjanam. Narada Muni tells Vyasadeva, even Naishkarmyam, okay, I don't have desire and I perform activities, okay, you get liberation. But it is not steady and it doesn't give happiness. And therefore, Narada Muni tells Vyasadeva that Naishkarmyam api achyuta bhava varjitam na shobhate jnanamalam niranjanam. There is no shobha in that activity. So the action should be performed for the pleasure of Mukunda, like Prabhupada says in the purport. Then it is really true to the nature of Atma. That leads to true self-realization. So I'll stop here. I may have went over time. I don't know when I'm supposed to end. I'll stop here. Any questions, comments from anybody if we have time?
No, you're okay, Prabhuji. No problem. Very nice class, Prabhuji. Such a nice explanation of all the verses that you have given with nice examples to understand the subject matter of the discussion today. So, Prabhuji, we'll take some questions from the devotees if they have. So, I will request Mataji, please open up the platform for questions and comments. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Arjun Mitra Prabhu, can you unmute, please?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
My question is, in the 12th canto of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhuji says that Santushta Satatam Yogi Yatatma Dradhanishchaya Mayarpita Manobuddhir Yomad Bhakta Samepriya. So in that, he is telling Arjuna that जो भक्त मुझे प्यारा है वो संतुष्ट है तो मुझे प्यारा है. और in the second canto 37th text, Prabhu is saying Arjuna to be determined and fight for the. So this is, I feel, somewhat I contradictory. How it can be understood? How it can be understood?
So it seems the way you understood santushtaha, satisfied, means not doing anything, right?
No, santushta satatam yogi.
Yes.
So not doing anything. Prabhu is not telling. Prabhu is not saying that not to do anything, do everything, but just like Raja Janak, santushta. No, I mean, I can't understand. And what is the?
Yeah. So because you said there's a contradiction, I'm trying to understand what exactly is the contradiction, because here he's telling him to fight.
Yes.
And there he's describing Santushta Satatam Yogi Yatatma Dridhanishchaya, right? So then what is he endeavoring for? Yata Atma means actually one who is endeavoring with determination. What is he endeavoring for? Right? So he's satisfied, but he's also endeavoring. The endeavor is to follow the principles of yoga with determination, right? And then we need to understand what is actually true yoga. So when we say the word yoga, what is yoga? And yoga is again samatvam. In one place, Krishna says, samatvam yoga uchyate, equanimity. And same thing, labha, labha, jaya, jaya. In this situation, when there is samatva, then it is called yoga. But in which situation you will have samatva? Whether there is victory or defeat, whether there is gain or loss. That means you are engaged in activity, but you are not worried about the result. In that situation, if you can be equipoised, then you know that you are equipoised, right? Otherwise, if you never are in a situation where there is either profit or loss, gain, or if you don't even fight, where is the question of defeat or, right? Or victory. Right. So therefore, then this is the exact point that Krishna throughout the Bhagavad Gita is trying to explain. He's trying to explain that a yogi, a sannyasi doesn't mean one who doesn't light the fire, but that person who does his activities and who is not attached to the results of the activities. He said that person is true sannyasi, that person is true yogi. So that means we have to follow the instructions of the Lord and be satisfied with the outcome. Whatever Krishna gives, yadricha labha santushta, means on its own, whatever profit comes, then you are satisfied. Your action is constant. You are continuously doing action. But the result, whatever comes on its own by the mercy of the Lord, you are satisfied with that result. That means we are in yoga.
It is
Yes.
resemblance to karmanya vadhikara se mahapalesu kadachana.
Yes. Yes. And
Thank
of
you.
course, in the Mahaphaleshu Kadachana verse, he doesn't say who is it the karma phala is for. In the second chapter, he karmanyevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala hetu. So you have the adhikara for karma, but not karma phala. And don't be attached to not doing your activity also. And don't think yourself to the cause of the phala. He doesn't go beyond that. But later, he says, Mai sarvani karmani sanyasya adhyatma chetana. No, you give your karmas to me. In the 9th chapter, yat karoshi yat juhosi tat kurushva madarpanam. Then he starts demanding, I am the enjoyer of the karma phala. Bhoktaram yagna tapasam sarva loka maheshwaram. Right? Yes. So in the beginning, it may be just, you can see how each of it builds upon it. In the beginning, okay, I'm not attached. But the true thing is giving the result to Krishna, making him the enjoyer. Right? So as the yogi progresses, then he realizes, okay, ultimately the pleasure of Krishna is what my pleasure is. That's it. That's where it stops. Right? Yasmin tushtam jagat tushtam. If Krishna is satisfied, everybody is satisfied. That is the goal of everything we do. Simply to please Krishna. And gopis perfected that art. All they do is, if Krishna is happy, they are happy. That's it. Nothing else is required. All these yogas end in Vrindavan.
Yes. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Ritu Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for such a beautiful explanation on the verses. While you were explaining about the killing animals in the sacrificial fire are not at all considered to be acts of violence, and eventually they will be, they'll get another human life immediately. So I do understand this, and also my question is, what happens, when we unintentionally kill bacteria around, in our house or outside the home? They also get, rid of their current life, and maybe they are going to get a human life.
Yes, so that's a very good point. And we are prone to commit this kind of violence. There is a purificatory process called Pancha Shuna Yagna, Pancha Mahayagna. It is prescribed for the Grihasthas that all Grihasthas must perform some activities because there are 5 different ways we commit violence. Of course, the example is given like in the olden days when we are fetching water from the well. I don't know how many of you even seen a well in this modern world. I have seen. And you will have a tree and then a lot of ants will be going around and you'll draw the water from there. You're putting in the pots and around the well there are ants. Sometimes ants may die. Or when you sweep, things may die unintentionally. Or in the grinding wheel. Or when you light fire. So I believe one more thing is maybe when we eat or something like that. So there are these activities in which violence is committed. Therefore, there's something prescribed Pancha Mahayagna, where I think you study the Vedas, you give charity, you do Pinda for the ancestors, you do Bali, means you give out some food to other animals. So there are certain activities that we do, but that's precisely what Prabhupada is explaining in the 38th verse purport, is all these rinas for ancestors and for purifying from these things. for a pure devotee, there are no obligations. Meaning, the Sankirtana Yagna that we are performing, the chanting of the holy names and dedicating our lives to Krishna, that itself is our Yagna. So therefore, these unexpected little things of insects, getting into way, these things will be taken care of. But intentionally, we should not try to kill them. And this is something that bothers me all the time. Sometimes in the middle of the night, I'll be on the road throwing away a cockroach.
Of course, yes.
Catching it with a glass, sliding a paper underneath, and then putting
Yeah.
out. I have done it just 3 days ago.
Oh
Right?
gosh. Yeah, my daughter will shout and yell, "Oh, mom, there's a cockroach in the room." And then, before 3 years back, I used to actually kill them. But now, after 3 years, I'm getting into devotional services. I just try to pick it up and throw it outside the house. Like, this is the
Yes.
change I have noticed in myself.
Yeah.
One more question, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
How can we practice Nishkam karma during, in daily basis? You really explained it so well. Just give yourself to Krishna, do everything for Krishna. But karma, like every day we do things which is connected to the family, benefits. That's another karma. How can we practice Nishkam karma?
Yeah. So it's not so easy. It comes with practice. The main thing is, and it's also simple in some ways, is give up the results of our work for Krishna. Now, what does that mean? What do you do when you get salary? How do we spend it? Am I going for movies? Am I enjoying for sense gratification for me? And am I sharing a portion of that with Krishna as a donation, right? Or distributing prasadam in some way or other. If we are not spending it for the purpose of Krishna consciousness, it will be binding, right? So that is the first step, is to see where this result is going, right? And gradually, we also think about Krishna when we do our activities. Both Krishna demands these things with Arjuna. Ma manusmara yudhyacha. By thinking of me, you fight. And not only that, you give up the results of your work. So when we do these two things, it becomes easier. But Prabhupada has made the process very simple for us. If you have to follow regulative principles, there's no choice for sense enjoyment. There's no place we can eat other than in the temple, devotees' homes, or Govindas. Right? You have no opportunity for sense gratification. So the way Prabhupada has expertly designed a nice curriculum for us, get up in the morning, do some puja, chant your rounds, read some scriptures, follow for regulative principles, and naturally these things will happen. Naturally, right? And one day we'll realize, okay, it's working. So don't think too much about that. Try to just take up the process Srila Prabhupada has given nicely, and naturally we'll find ourselves applying these principles. Prabhupada is so expert that what he did is, using all these things, he gave us the essence and he gave us the essential principles. So naturally, he gave us the topmost thing, and we will get there if we practice that one.
Thank you so much for your guidance, Prabhuji. I'm sure I will benefit with your points. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I have a question. In
Yes.
Shloka number 37, he said, right, either you fight or win.
Yes.
And the other thing that Krishna is telling, if you will be killed, you will attain heavenly planets.
Yes.
But my understanding was not in this case, but anybody or everybody who fought and who died during the war, they all went back to the spiritual world, not to the heavenly planet. So why is Krishna mentioning heavenly planet here?
That's a very good point, actually. I'm glad you brought that up. So that what Krishna is saying is the general principle. Okay? So the general principle is, when someone does, fight on the battlefield according to righteous principles and everything, they will attain Swarga. As part of their doing duties properly, they'll get promoted. But in not every battle, Krishna is, in front of everybody, giving darshan and purifying them. So that's what happens generally. But because Krishna is present here, they got the highest benefit of going back to Godhead. Because of Krishna's presence and because of being purified by the arrows thrown by Arjuna also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But so maybe here, why is Krishna telling him, you will go to heavenly planet? Is it like a general principle that he's telling?
Yes, actually he's giving the general principle because see, Arjuna is acting on our behalf, right?
Okay.
Arjuna is eternal associate of the Lord. He's not one of us. So Krishna puts Arjuna in this situation to explain all the possibilities, right? Like he does in the 12th chapter, when Prabhu, Arjuna Amrita Prabhu brought the 12th chapter. In there, Krishna starts with highest. So if you cannot do anything, just give your result to somebody.
Yes.
Start somewhere, just no matter who it is, you should not enjoy, that's it, you just give it to somebody. Begin over there, right? So, but it doesn't mean Krishna is telling Arjuna to follow that principle. So he's giving a ladder, a sequence of things, right? To the entire population of this creation by using Arjuna.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. I don't think anybody has any other questions right now. So if you are okay, we can end the call here, Prabhuji. Thank you once again very much.
Prabhuji, I have a question. I don't know if it's the right question or not. Okay, Arjun is Kshatriya, so he cannot tolerate the things what is not right, right, Prabhuji? According his Kshatriya position, he has to fight. Krishna was advising him, but before Kurukshetra were start, they suffered a lot by Duryodhana, Dushashan and the Kaurav party. But why they tolerate all these things? Why?
Because they had a brother like Yudhishthira. Because they had a brother like Yudhishthira, who is Dharmaraj, right? Oh, okay. Otherwise, Bhima would have smashed everybody. So always, they were very respectful to their older brother Yudhishthira, and they would not do anything without the permission of Yudhishthira. And Yudhishthira is so wise that he would not do anything that is not completely approved and completely right. So he is always obedient to his elders. He never wanted to disobey Dhritarashtra, who is his elder, right? So because of all these good qualities, they dragged on, they tolerated for a long time.
Yes.
Yeah. And Krishna also teaches us through the example of the Pandavas that how great his devotees are. They do not want anything other than devotion to Krishna. It may seem suffering to us, but later, in hindsight, Mother Kunti thinks, actually it was so nice. Because that was a means for us to have your association. That was a means for us to always think of you, always meditate on you. In these circumstances, we were able to associate with you. So what may apparently seem like a troubling situation for us, in reality may be something else. And that is how Pandavas saw it, and that is how Kunti Devi saw it. And the world also takes a lesson from the Pandavas that how surrendered they were to Krishna in spite of all the problems. Like we enjoy coming to Krishna consciousness when the weather is good. When there's the slightest problem, then we start blaming Krishna, blaming devotees, right? We are disappointed. But, if you look at Pandavas, we'll feel ashamed to blame anybody for anything. They never blamed Krishna, right? They were so obedient that they never blamed Krishna. And so much so that Kunti Devi is saying, I'm okay to have more problems. I just need your presence and mercy. And so this is the greatness of the Pandavas. So they are, on one side you could say they are Kshatriyas, but they are also pure devotees. Therefore, they are actually transcendental. The Prabhupada says devotees are above varnashram. So from that sense, you could say, because they were pure devotees, they were able to tolerate these things.
Yes.
Okay, shall we stop here?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay.
On behalf of our foundation, I would like to request you, please keep coming and giving us your association. The session today was very, very wonderful, especially the portion where you related, like how Harilya Prabhu said, you related chapter 1 and 2 for better clarification. So thank you very much for your time today and sharing all your knowledge that you have with all of us today.
Thank you very much, all of you, for your association.
वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। भगवत गीता की जय।
His Grace
श्रीनिवास आचार्य प्रभु की जय।
Srinivas की जय।
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, धन्यवाद प्रणाम।
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी, दंडवत प्रणाम।
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
So we will have tomorrow also we'll have a wonderful class by Her Grace Sundari Radha Mataji. So please do join on time. Thank you.
Okay, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Dharma Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Leela Prabhu. Dhanwan Pranam.